Rome's earliest symbol was the she-wolf with the twins Romulus and Remus. The image reminds us that the female of the species can be nurturing, but provoke her, and you'll discover she has some very sharp teeth. The women of Rome today, whether native-born or expat transplants, haven't lost a bit of their bite. Tanya Halkyard was born in San Diego, California, and moved to Rome in 2011 to open a language school. Exploring other cultures came naturally to this daughter of a British-born mother and an American dad. She grew up hearing stories about her famous great-great-great-great-aunt, Susan B. Anthony, who turned the 19th century on its ear when she mobilized women to oppose slavery and demand the vote. With that family legacy in mind, Tanya went to the American Embassy in Rome on November 8th to watch America elect its first female president. Well, we all know how that one turned out. I mourned for a day, Tanya told me, and the next day, I got to work. Tanya founded the American Expats for Positive Change Italy and reached out to the Women's March, Progressive Action Global Exchange, Americans Resisting Overseas, Democrats Abroad, and others. She organized marches and protests for progressive causes and held a panel discussion with supporters of the president. A successful event involved whiteboards where people were invited to complete a sentence that started, "I stand with refugees because..." Responses ran the gamut from "We are one human family" to "The amazing kebab," a reason close to my own heart. When the White House announced that the president was coming to Rome, Tanya's group joined the Women's March and many others to send him a message. Possibly the only person in Rome who was even less enthusiastic about the arrival of the U.S. president was His Holiness Pope Francis. He had found himself the object of many gushy but slightly odd and inappropriate tweets of praise. Before this one-sided bromance could get completely out of hand, His Holiness delivered his famous "Thou shalt not build walls" sermon and reminded the world that the Lord loves immigrants. The president was not amused. In fact, this relationship is definitely on the rocks. I suspect the pontiff wishes that he could have gone out into the streets of Rome waving protest signs with Tanya and everybody else. I caught up with Tanya this week for an online interview. Unfortunately, the connection was so shaky, the film quality looks rather as if she were calling in from deep space during a meteor storm. Nevertheless, we persisted.
So Donald Trump reminds me a bit of a good friend I have who is a pathological liar. And now knowing that he has that diagnosis, it makes it easier to understand how he thinks and how he communicates. I'm speaking about my friend. We'll call him John. So John, what happens when you ask him a question, he doesn't immediately go to the part of the brain where the truth is. If I ask you, what did you do last night? You would first think about what you did last night, but he didn't. He thinks about, what does she want me to say? Or what would be something, what is she looking for? And then it would sometimes circle back to the truth of what he actually did, but that wasn't his first reaction. And that's a diagnosis, and that's a problem that he probably still deals with. So when watching Donald Trump in interviews and in speeches and interactions with people, I see that behavior.
Is the president a pathological liar? I'll leave that for future historians to decide. I do know that his words and actions have outraged people around the world and prompted a massive surge in progressive protests. Is all this activity making a real difference?
So my answer is that yes, I think the resistance is working.
You know, I think she's right. 5 million of us marched on January 20th. And every time the White House proposes another unjust law, attempts to marginalize another segment of our society, or further abandons its responsibilities to preserve our home planet, our numbers get larger, and our purpose gets clearer. Organize, agitate, educate must be our war cry, said Susan B. Anthony. And thanks to the resistance, our shouts of protest are being heard around the world. This is Karen McCann saying stay tuned because we're just getting started.